Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Stardust Dragon Assault Mode deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one, because this deck literally just says no to everything, which is super cool, and plays one of the most nostalgic cards in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is Stardust Dragon, which was Yusei's ace monster during Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, which is a really amazing card to play in a deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below where you have all sorts of awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test stand. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So basically we're going to be playing 3 copies of Stardust Dragon Assault Mode, so which is the base boss monster of the entire deck, which has the ability that this card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except with its own effect or with the activated effect of Assault Mode Activate. You can only use the effect, or you can tribute this card to negate the activation of a spell trap or monster effect and destroy that card. And if you do, negate the activation this way. And then you can special summon this card from your graveyard during the end phase, and when this card on the field is destroyed, then you can special summon 1 Stardust Dragon monster from your graveyard, which is a pretty good effect just to instantly give you back a Stardust Dragon. So this card is never going to go away unless your opponent banishes it, which usually you'll be able to negate that before it happens. But this card is really, really cool. We then play 3 copies of Assault Sentinel. Assault Sentinel is like the main card that you want to get to in the deck, so then you can get to your Psi Reflector as quickly as possible, because this has the ability to tribute this card to special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck that specifically lists Assault Mode Activate in its text, except another copy of itself. And also, you cannot special summon monsters from the X deck for the rest of the turn except for Synchro monsters, and you can target 1 face-up monster you control and reveal the Synchro monster in your X deck. When you do, the targeted monster's type and attribute become that same type and attribute as the revealed monsters until the end of the next turn. You only use the effect of this card once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Psi Reflector. So Psi Reflector is extremely important for the deck, and you have a lot of different ways to get to it, but you have to get to your Assault Sentinel first to get to this card. Because this card, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add an Assault Mode Activate, or 1 card that specifically lists Assault Mode Activate in its text from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. And you reveal Assault Mode Activate in your hand, and then you get to target 1 monster in your graveyard that specifically lists Assault Mode Activate in its text, except another copy of itself, and special summon it. And we do increase its level by 1 to 4. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. So this card essentially makes it so you can get from here to here very quickly, or vice versa, so you can get your plays off very quickly. Because basically you're using these 2 cards to combo to be able to go into your copy of your Stardust Dragon and get your Assault Mode Activate set with a couple of back row to be able to protect it and go off from your play from there. We then play a single copy of Assault Beast, because this card has the ability to discard it to add an Assault Mode Activate card from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect. 3 copies of Summoner Monk, because this card just helps you get out your cards from your deck, like your copy of your Assault Sentinel, to be able to go off into your particular plays. And then for the hand traps, which also double as synchro material to go into your copies of your Stardust Dragon, is a single copy of Psy-Frame Driver and 3 copies of Psy-Frame Gear Gamma. So Gamma really helps out in the deck, because they can actually, if you use this card during your turn, you can be able to go into a copy of your Stardust Dragon or a Psy-Frame Lord Omega to be able to just go after your opponent for all sorts of different card advantage, which is really good. This card is basically a negation for anything for monster effects, which is pretty good as well, as long as you don't control a monster. And a lot of your cards tribute themselves to be able to go off with their effects, which is pretty good as well to be able to use its effects. Then we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom, because Ash Blossom just stops all sorts of shenanigans against you, which is super helpful as well. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we are going to be playing a single copy. You play a lot of 1-ofs in this deck, I will mention. We're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn, because it's going to get your monsters back from the graveyard to get your additional plays off as quickly as possible. 1 copy of 1-for-1, because 1-for-1 helps out the deck to get your copy of Psi Reflector as quickly as possible. 1 copy of Upstart Goblin, because playing a 39 card deck is pretty nice. 1 copy of Emergency Teleport, because it gets your Psi Reflector out of the deck very quickly. 1 copy of Assault Mode Activate, because you contribute a Assault Mode monster, especially an Assault Mode monster monster from your hand or deck whose name includes the attributed monster's name, and this is treated as a special summon with an assault mode activate, and then during your main phase you can banish this card from your graveyard to set an assault mode activate directly from your hand or deck, and it can be activated the turn this card was set. So this card is really good to play in assault mode 0 in your deck to be able to go off with your particular plays. We then play 3 copies of Assault Teleport. Assault Teleport is kind of a neat card in the deck because Assault Teleport basically says you don't want to have your assault mode monsters in your hand, so you're going to use this card to be able to put them back in your deck and then draw 2, which is super nice to be able to just get you an additional draw from the deck to go for additional plays. We then play 3 copies of Fire Formation Tinky. So Fire Formation Tinky is super helpful in the deck because it helps you add your Assault Sentinel from your deck to your hand very quickly to be able to go into your particular play. So this card is very, very, very important for the deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, this is where the deck starts to really shine. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Assault Mode Activate. So Assault Mode Activate says you tribute any synchro monster to special summon an Assault Mode monster with the monster's name included in the Assault Mode monster. So for example, you have Stardust Dragon. You can activate Assault Mode Activate and then equip it with the Assault Armor to go into your copy of Stardust Dragon Assault Mode because it says Stardust Dragon in the name, which is pretty cool. So basically it upgrades your copy of Stardust Dragon to be even better, and there's a lot of different assault mode monsters in the game that you can change out the Stardust Dragon and the copy of Stardust Dragon assault mode in this particular deck to play any of them. So this is just a baseline essentially to go for any assault mode monster, which is really cool. So you have that particular advantage in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Back to the Front, which is essentially 3 copies of Monster Reborn, but you basically have to set it to target a monster in your graveyard and special summon it in Defense Edition, which is super helpful for the deck just to get you additional plays and monsters from the graveyard. So this card is very, very helpful to get your copy of your Stardust Dragon back from the grave. For example, you can go in for a particular play and say go Assault Mode Activate with the Back to the Front set and go in for Stardust Dragon Assault Mode, and then during your opponent's end phase, activate Back to the Front, get your copy of Stardust Dragon back on your side of the field, and then switch it to attack position, and then you have Assault Mode and the regular form, and if you have another copy of Assault Mode Activate set, you can then go in for a second copy of Stardust Dragon Assault Mode. So you can get 2 of them on your side of the field extremely quickly, which is super helpful. We then play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment in the deck as well, because basically playing this and you having a copy of a Stardust Dragon Assault Mode is saying no to 2 cards, but this is a speed spell 3, and usually you don't have to lose that many life points in this deck anyways, so you're going to have a lot of advantage with the copy of Solemn Judgment, because as long as you have half to pay and you're not if you haven't lost the game yet, you always have half to pay in with this particular card. So I love playing the copies of Solemn Judgment in this deck because it helps out the deck so much. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to obviously be playing 3 copies of Stardust Dragon. So Stardust Dragon is basically the main card of the deck because it has the ability to contribute this card to negate the activation of a spell, trap, or monster effect that destroys card or cards on your field. And it destroys that card. And if you negate the effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard during the end phase, which is a pretty good effect just to basically get you a copy of your Stardust Dragon on your side of the field as quickly as possible, and then give you additional negations on your side of the field. This card is really good at just being the combo piece of the entire deck. We then play a single copy of Chaos Ruler, the Charismatic Magical Dragon. I really like playing this card as a one-of because it's kind of neat just to dump your cards to the graveyard and then use stuff like Monster Reborn and stuff like that to get you additional plays in the deck. So this card's pretty helpful. I play a single copy of Void Ogre Dragon because the reason you play Void Ogre in the deck is actually because your Psi Reflector is a dark. So you can actually go in for stuff like Beals, and you can go in for stuff like your copy of Void Ogre very easily. And speaking of Beals, we play Beals as a one-of. I play a single copy of my Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon because Crystal Wing is pretty easy to go into in the deck because you have stuff that you can just make it really easily. But it's overall a pretty good card in the deck. We play a single copy of Psyframe Lord Omega. Omega's pretty good because Omega can just come out and rip a card out of your opponent's hand. And there are some instances in the deck when you're playing against your opponent where, for example, they'll activate something like you'll tribute a copy of maybe, I don't know, you'll activate your copy of Stardust Dragon Assault Mode, and then they'll activate another card on their field that's a monster, and then you'll drop a Gamma on your side of the field with a driver, and then you'll make, during your turn, a copy of Omega with the card that you just negated, which is super cool. Or you'll activate your copy of Assault Sentinel by tributing it to use its effect to special summon. You can tribute this card to special summon any monster from your hand or deck that lists Assault Mode to get your Side Reflector. You'll chain the copy of, like, they'll Ash Blossom you, and then you'll chain your copy of your Gamma, special summon a driver and a Gamma, and then you've already got 2 Stardust Dragons on your side of the field, or a Omega and a copy of Stardust Dragon, which then you can rip an extra card out of your opponent's hand because they drop the hand trap, and then they drop this, so they start with 4, and then you have the Stardust Dragon as well that's going to negate 1, so you only have 3 cards left to really worry about in their hand, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Quantum Dragon is pretty good in the deck too. I summon it every so often in the games, but it's super good because it has the ability that when you control a Link monster your opponent control cannot target monster you control with attacks except this one, and your opponent cannot target this card you control with the card effects except this one. And then once per turn, at the start of the damage step, this card battles an opponent's monster. You can return that opponent's monster to the hand, and also this card makes a second attack in a row, which is pretty good just to be able to get its effect off to bounce stuff. I really like it for that reason. One copy of Black Rose. Black Rose is really helpful in the deck because it just board wipes. It's just really helpful. FA Dawn Dragster. Dawn Dragster negates spells and traps, so it's pretty good. Trishula, kind of weird to go into, but it happens sometimes. Satellite Warrior, pretty easy to go into in the deck with your copy of Needle Fiber and Formula Synchron, but it just requires a Synchro monster and a Tuner monster, so it's pretty easy to go into because you have Formula Synchron that you can go in for, and you get to draw a card when you go into this. And then I play a single copy of Needle Fiber as well because you contribute the Needle Fiber to go in for Formula, and if you have any level 8 on your side of the field, you can then go Formula plus the Satellite Synchron to go, or Satellite, you can go Formula plus any level 8 into Satellite Warrior, and then for every Synchron you have in the grave, you get a pop a card, and it gains 1,000 attack, which is pretty good. It doesn't come up all the time, but when it does, it's game. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play with. I hope you guys did enjoy playing around with Stardust Dragon Assault Mode. If you guys like Synchro decks, this is definitely one that you should try out because it is ridiculously fun to play with. And I'm really glad that I built this deck because I play with this deck every so often when I'm just like, I want to say no to everything. I just want to say no, and it works. It's really fun, and it's really simple to teach somebody to play Synchro Summoning with this deck because you're basically just going for 8s and just going for games. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below where you have all those awesome rewards for you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.